Welcome back, children. Let's continue with the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. So let's move on with the fourth stanza. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. So, children, the poet says that we always keep on moving. Do we get time to reflect inside us? Do we get time to introspect? Exactly. Do we want to introspect? Never, never, never. Because one or the other time we are busy about one thing or another. Sometimes our passion, sometimes our dreams, sometimes our children. And then comes the time when there is death just in front of us, and suddenly the whole picture moves quickly in front of our eyes. So the poet says that if we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, children, the same thing, that we are busy in our lives about one thing or the other, our goals, passions, everything. So poet says that if we are not so single-minded and for once could do nothing, means for one time, for one moment exactly, just do nothing. So what will happen? A huge silence will be there. That will interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves. Children, everyone knows inside that what is good or bad. Am I alright? Something is wrong. But the busyness of life does not provide us ample amount of time to think back, to think about the sadness which is prevailing inside us. So when we will be silent, so that silence will break the sadness of never understanding ourselves. Because we should understand ourselves before we understand any other. And then of threatening ourselves with death. So what happened, children? We are running up after one thing or the other. But from inside we know that there is sadness. And we are not understanding that. We want to understand our sadness, but we keep on running. And we know this thing, that if we don't do anything of that sadness will kill us. We are threatened. So the poet believes that once we are silent, then we will ponder, we will understand ourselves, we will remove this pall of darkness. Pall means dust. Gloomy things will get removed. So let's understand the literary devices of this fourth stanza. Alliteration. We were so single-minded. So you repetition of the letter W and S. Enjambment. And for once could perhaps a huge silence of threatening ourselves with death. Enjambment, children, I have already explained to you. Perhaps the earth can teach us when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. So, children, the poet says that keeping quiet doesn't mean total inactivity. We can learn from earth. It also sometimes becomes quiet. But is it dead? No. The earth, which seems to be dead, later proves to be alive. How? When you sow seeds, so the earth seems to be dead. No activity, nothing. Wait for some months, some years. What you see? Greenery everywhere. So, the poet says that learn from death and have the jolly nature, happiness inside you, life. Now, poet says, I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. So at last, the poet requests that, again I'm requesting you that I'm keep counting up to 12 and you please be quiet, because he knows his requests would not be paid attention by many. So that's all, children, in this poem. So now let me explain you some new words or annotations by Pablo Neruda. Count to 12. It means counting has been considered an act of calming down by psychiatry. You know, when you are angry, what happens? Generally, the calmers, those who help calm down the fight, they give suggestion. Psychiatrists give suggestion that those who are hot-headed, they must count up to 12 before arguing or fighting with anyone. The face of earth, the entire world without any exceptions. So complete earth has been talked about here. Exotic means strikingly unusual or sensuous. Sensuous means full of godly qualities or meditative qualities. Sudden strangeness means absolute calm is something which is hardly practiced by us. The act of keeping quiet all at once is bound to fill us with a sense of unfamiliarity, since it is a practice so alien to humans who always feel the need to be in some activity, as professed by the poet in the poem Eventually. Cold sea. Her reference is to the colder, more obscure parts of the world. Hurt hands, taxing manual labor such as gathering salt, as a corroding effects on the hands. I told you hands get injured if you work with salt all the time. Green wars means wars on nature. Gas is reference to gas bombs. Clean cloths, note of anti-violence struck by poet through his phrase. So clean cloth means, when wars take place, if some party raises white flag, it is considered as ceasefire, means war to be stopped. So clean cloth, here the poet symbolizes that anti-violence. Total inactivity means dormancy. Dormant stage means, suppose you sow the seed, it is inside the earth, it is in a dormant state. But once it comes out, the shoot comes out and root starts moving downwards, is activity. Want no truck with death. The poet does not want the readers to misunderstand the stillness. He recommends for death. Single-minded means narrow in thoughts, having a lack of vision while thinking. Sadness of never understanding ourselves. The feeling of discontent emerging from being unaware of our mental composition, capabilities, and all our desires. So that's all, children, this poem. Hope you understand the poem. Feel free if you have any kind of confusion in any part of the poem, and ask me without hesitation. Thank you very much for watching intently.